All right, what's going on, guys? Graham Jason Matthews here with BleacherReport.com, and ahead of the upcoming episode of Biography WWE Legends, we got a whole slew of legends this season on the show. This coming one on Sunday, August 21st, A&E, 8 p.m. We got one of the Rated R superstar, Edge, just making his return to WWE TV at Summerslam. You can see him every Monday night on Raw as well. Edge, what's going on, dude?
Not much, man. Just getting ready for Toronto. Super excited, and it's a good time.
I was going to say, going off of that, so you confirmed this past week on Raw, from when we're speaking right now, you're facing Damian Priest in your native Toronto on Raw, your first match on Raw in Toronto, you said, in like 10, 12 years or whatever it is, which is crazy. Talk a little bit about how that came about.
Dude, I'm so excited. You know, I sat down with Paul, and I saw that Toronto was coming. We have the storyline with the Judgment Day. It felt like the perfect opportunity to actually do what we kind of used to do, which was promote a Raw match almost like a month in advance. And I just thought it seemed like the perfect opportunity and a special moment too. Not only, I guess, for the audience, but man, for me, like I never thought I'd be wrestling again, period, let alone in Toronto. 12 years after I wrestled there on Raw the last time, and I think that was against Jay, that was against Christian. So it just kind of boggles my mind. So this whole thing, man, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it, but I'm just enjoying it. And the fact that I can go back to my hometown in front of all my friends in Scotiabank Center against a guy like Priest, who I've said for years, I really think he's an underutilized guy, and that was part of the reason for the Judgment Day. Super fun, man. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you get into this industry to do, is nights like this one coming up. So to say I'm excited would be a bit of an understatement.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as a fan. You mentioned the first match on Raw in 12 years since the match with Christian. I remember that. Wasn't that the commercial-free Raw that one rare time?
It was, where I think it was some kind of stipulation where they picked the opponents or something like that.
Yeah, pick your poison,
yes. And so it was him and I, and that was the last time that I wrestled in Toronto. Wow. So on Raw. So it's pretty big, man. It's on my entrance alone, I am going to be blown up so sky high that I'm going to need, like, okay, I got to get my breath here because you've probably got a long way to go. But I also think that part of my entrance is, you can tell I'm just as excited to be out there doing this thing again, and I think that translates. I think an audience goes, man, that dude loves this gig. Like there's nothing forced or phony or fake about that. Like I am so fired up. I feel like I could chew through concrete when my music hits.
Oh, I know. I mean, we as fans just love it, just hearing it every time you come out. And the fact that it's going to hit in Toronto on Raw, and it's not like you've been wrestling on Raw a lot since you've come back. You only had that one match with Randy, I believe, about a year and a half ago, coming off the Rumble, and that was about it. So it definitely feels like an attraction for where you guys are going to be, like you mentioned. And a lot of questions coming off of what you said, but you mentioned sitting down with Hunter, talking to him about putting this match together in Toronto. And you mentioned, too, like, we're long removed from the days of announcing matches. I mean, a week in advance sometimes, but rarely ever 2 weeks in advance. So when I heard that on Raw, I had to check my ears for a second, thinking, did he mean next week? And then I checked the schedule. I'm like, oh, it was 2 weeks, because we never really see that nowadays. And you're a guy, since you've come back, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but as someone who's had a lot of creative input with what you've been doing, which is cool to see, having, Paul in charge now creatively may not change a lot as far as you go, but just your thoughts on the new regime and how it kind of changes what you do, I guess, if at all.
Well, I think to your point, I've had a lot of creative input, and that took 25 years of equity with the company, right? So in that regard, it doesn't change a lot. But what is so fun to see is that it feels like that's going dressing room wide now, and that's really cool. I think everyone feels super excited and stoked and just ready to see, oh man, okay, let's see how this goes. And I think you can already see that's happening. And I know Paul looks at things like a fan, because he still is a fan of this, just like I am. And that means that you're now booking things that from the fan perspective, it's like, oh yeah, okay, that match, cool. Or it's bringing back Karrion Kross, and it's bringing back Dakota. And it's a really fun time to be involved with the company. And it's it's a transition. It's different, but different's fun. And I so far, man, I've had a blast going to work and, you know, kind of biting into getting to do an actual storyline with Priest and Balor and Rhea now, because it was just kind of floating there for a little while. Now it feels like it's getting a direction, and that's really, really fun. And, you know, we had to make some changes because of injuries and things like that, and you adapt, and that's just what you do. And I've said, you know, since I come back, I kind of look at myself as a DH hitter, right? So you put me in where you need me, okay? So you need me to turn heel? Okay, we'll give it a shot. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'll give it a shot. And then, okay, got some injuries, need you to turn back face. All right, cool. We'll give it a shot, because I've been trying to be an asshole for 2 months, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But I do think, you know, coming back and doing this and kind of where I'm slotted again is where I need to be for everybody's sake. I think that's kind of what the fans want. They know my story, man. You know, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm getting to do it again. So let's just everybody react how they want to react, and let's have some fun with this thing while it's happening, because it's not going to last long.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you say that too. You talk about, like, you know, you were calling like you were acting like an asshole, calling everyone sheep and all this other sort of stuff. And then your first promo back, you're like, apologize. And you're like, you know what, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't actually mean that. All this other stuff. And it's like, it's funny you say that, because you're at a point now, you talk about that equity with the company. If that was anyone else, it probably would take a lot longer to win over that audience again. But people were waiting to cheer you. You know, they were waiting for that music. And I love Metalingus, and it's great. And I love the fact that when you went heel a couple of months ago, you mentioned how people wanted to embrace you anyway. But the music, every little detail, I was talking to my girlfriend about it. Like the detail that you put into that character with the music, getting Alter Bridge to do it, it was so apparent that you had full creative input over it, because just everything you did with that character while you were with Judgment Day, and now what we're seeing now with like the Brood stuff at SummerSlam, just want to tell you, man, it's so fucking cool to see as a fan.
Well, thanks, man. You know, when I was first approached about like turning heel because they didn't want a babyface match with AJ at WrestleMania, I was like, I kind of do, but okay. All right, let's figure this out. So it was, I got to lose the music because people love it.
Yeah.
All right, what's a darker Alter Bridge? Okay, this is one I've had dog-eared if this were ever the case. Then it was, went out and got 30 suits made, which I will now never wear again. So I wasted a whole bunch of money on suits. You know, it was just trying to change every aspect. It was cut the hair. It was lose every semblance of the edge that they'd been enjoying and try and reinvent this thing, which is a big challenge almost, 30 years into my career. I think we were just starting to make some headway, truthfully. Like, it felt like at Hell in a Cell, I was like, oh, okay. They're starting to buy in a little bit. And then the next day we did the flip. And I knew going into that match it was happening. So it was kind of like bittersweet.
Yeah.
Because I just, in terms of the talent involved in the Judgment Day, I really believe in all of them. So it would have been cool to kind of be a mentor to that, but it's equally as cool to be opposite of that. And play off of that. So, I get a guy like Priest in Toronto, hell yeah. Give me that all day.
Oh, man. We've been looking forward to it for a while. You guys have had interactions over the years. You talked about on Raw Talk this past week about the advice that you would give him and him keeping you up late at night with all this other sort of stuff. So there is that realism there, which I love what you're doing right now. And we've been seeing that for a while. We saw that during the Seth feud about a year ago, going a little bit back, going a bit back to that about a year ago. SummerSlam, man, I was there last year. Hearing that Brood music was a phenomenal experience. I know you've talked a little bit about it before in past interviews, but just talk a little bit about how that came about. And I know Gangrel was about to use it elsewhere, and that kind of came to a head and whatever. And we've seen him since on TV, which is cool. But just want to get from your standpoint how that came about, because Vince seems like the sort of person, not knowing him personally, that would probably make people think that fans, we wouldn't remember it, although that we do. So I just want to get your opinion on that whole thing.
Well, that was a big thing. I truly believe that wrestling fans love history being called back.
Yep.
And the layers of story that we can add to that. I had to fight to get the Seth curb stomp on the briefcase involved in our story. And that's just because I just mentioned it in live promos. Yeah. Because to me, there was history there that needed to be touched upon because it added so many different layers to our story. It wasn't just this current thing. No, man, this started when, I was retired. And now we can bring it full circle. The Brood thing, again, it just felt like the natural progression of the story. And this guy brought out that bad side, and let's do this entrance. And some people might not remember, but guess what? We got the best production company team in the world to remind them. And now it's something we can dip back into every once in a while. At SummerSlam this year, let's do the entrance. And then it was just that one-time deal, but Brood Edge is always there to be able to dip into if we need it. It's really, and it's fun for me because I love the Brood. The Brood was the first instance where I felt comfortable in the WWE, where I truly felt like, okay, we got something here. We're on to something here. And I talked about that in the documentary too, where it was the first element of character that I kind of understood and could bite into, no pun intended. And the Brood really helped me take the next step, which was Edge and Christian. And then from Edge and Christian to Solo Edge, and so on and so on. A lot of it's about reinvention or just trying to, recreate without losing, I guess, the core elements of the character. And I think that's part of what I did with the Judgment Day thing, was try and reinvent everything. And there's probably too much to try and do, you know. But again, where I'm back now feels like the place to be.
Yeah, and you're getting the reactions. Like I said, you came back, you got this massive reaction at SummerSlam this year, and we're going to be back in Toronto for a couple of weeks to get another monster reaction when you go back there. But it's cool that you mentioned reinvention. You've always been the master of reinvention, going back to your original run with the company, and you've only been back 2.5 years now. I say only, but it's been 2.5 years. I mean, it's blown by, obviously, I'm sure for you as well. But, just looking at it and everything you've done, you came back as, the regular old Edge, and we've seen Rated R Superstar Edge a little bit, and you mentioned the Brood Edge and Judgment Day Edge, and now the Edge we all know and love we're seeing on TV right now, which is cool. It's pretty amazing that in 2022, all these years removed from the Brood, which we will revisit in the documentary, as you mentioned, that you and Jay, Christian obviously, are two of the very best going in your respective companies right now. As a fan, it's just surreal to even think about. Probably not too surprising considering the talent involved there, but it's still super cool to see.
We're both having a blast, man. Like, I just talked to him today, and we just... The fact that we're both back doing this when we're both never supposed to be able to do this, and to get back and feel like we're contributing too, that's huge for us because we take pride in what we do. And it's just fun. We'll just sit back and kind of go like, wow, here we are. Look at that. It's like that Paul Rudd on the Hot Ones. Look at us. Look at us. That's kind of what happens sometimes, where it's still surreal. I don't want to lose that. To me, there's still those surreal things, like this documentary for A&E. Like, I never thought I'd have an A&E documentary, let alone have Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker making comments in it. Like, there's still stuff that happens like that where I just, sometimes I pinch myself and go, yeah, it's happening. That happened. Main event of WrestleMania since I've been back. What? Like, I don't know. I don't want to lose that because it makes me appreciate it. And I want to appreciate and soak in every nanosecond of this because I know, it's been 2.5 years, but I know the window's not much longer. And I just need to appreciate every time I'm in that ring. And I do. Yeah.
And it comes across on TV. Like you said, you appreciate it. You said it when you first came back. What was that?
I think it does. Yeah. I truly think it translates to the audience. Like, man, this dude, he got it back. Yeah. And he really loves this thing. And I do. There's just no way around it. To me, it is the best gig in the world. And it mixes all of the things that I love. It's I said in the documentary, it's athleticism, it's writing, it's acting, it's creating, it's all of those things, all just these creative things that you can tap into. And that, to me, again, makes it the best gig in the world.
And like you said, it's apparent on TV, and that's why people cheer you. That's why you're the fan favorite that you are every time you come out on the show. And you mentioned the documentary. I think it's cool, too, because we've had other docs on you before on the network and, DVDs and whatever. The one that came out right after you retired around the time that you were inducted in the Hall of Fame, which was great. But you're looking at it now with this A&E doc with even more perspective, looking back now, being back in the ring and whatever, which is going to be really cool to watch in A&E coming up on the 21st of August, which, we mentioned earlier. But last question for you, man. You mentioned it right there as far as enjoying enjoying every second of it. And I think part of the idea of this run, too, is that this one can end on your own terms. Last one, it wasn't up to you, which has its pros and cons. You've talked about that before. But this one, hopefully you can end on top on your own terms when you want to. Are you not looking to the end of the tunnel at all? I mean, obviously you signed on for a certain amount of years, but just talking about as far as, like, is there like a certain age in your mind that you're like, all right, I want to be done by this point, or whenever it feels right to you?
Oh man, my original age was 40. So, oh man, I screwed that up. But I had to retire at 37, so I feel like I didn't get those last 3 years of stuff I wanted to do, because I felt like I was just moving in a position where I was helping teach, and I was really looking forward to that. Because I had so many people over the years, so many veterans help me along the way, that I felt like, great, now it's my turn. Now I can do that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this run, I've been able to do some of that. And that, to me, has been one more layer on this cake. That was already a pretty tasty cake anyway, So I am enjoying and soaking in every moment with the absolute complete, realization that it's going to end soon. So I know the end's in sight. I can see it. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it almost makes me enjoy it more. And because I had to retire for 9 years, it makes me enjoy everything that much more. And it puts it all in perspective. And then once it's done, I'm dad. And that's the better gig than this. Yeah. So, I know it's going to sound egotistical, but I just friggin' love my life, man. and my life and the WWE has given me everything I've ever wanted and then some. So I'm just enjoying the whole ride, man.
That's awesome, man. We're very happy to hear that. We love seeing you on Raw every week, and we're going to love seeing you in this A&E documentary coming up, Biography WWE Legends, Sunday, August 21st, as I mentioned, 8 p.m. on A&E, which, again, it's surreal to say, like you said, an Edge documentary on A&E. I wish I had this 10 years ago when I was in high school. It's cool. There's so much content. It's awesome. We see on Peacock, too. It's fantastic. But, Edge, this has been great, man. Always awesome chatting with you. You're always a pleasure, man. Have a great day. I appreciate it, dude.
Thanks, you too, Graham.